She told the black CEO to get lost, but minutes later the entire company would learn the cost of underestimating her power. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The gleaming glass doors of Vertex Systems headquarters reflected the morning sun as Maya Richardson stepped out of her modest sedan. She adjusted her tailored navy suit and checked her watch, 8:45 a.m., 15 minutes early for the meeting. Perfect. At 42, Maya had built her tech company, Next Gen Solutions, from nothing into a $250 million enterprise over the past decade. Today's meeting was potentially the biggest of her career, a possible acquisition of Vertex Systems that would expand her company's reach nationwide and save hundreds of jobs at the struggling firm. Maya walked confidently through the parking lot, her leather portfolio clutched under her arm. She had done her homework. Vertex needed this deal as much as she wanted it, but you wouldn't know it from the building's imposing facade. The company had been hemorrhaging money for months, while maintaining all the outward appearances of success, a common story in the tech world these days. As she approached the entrance, Maya took a deep breath, centering herself for the negotiations ahead. The lobby of Vertex Systems was all polished marble and chrome, with a massive company logo displayed prominently behind the reception desk. A white woman in her 50s sat there, scrolling through her phone with an air of disinterest. Her nameplate read, Patricia Winters, Front Desk Coordinator. Maya approached with a warm smile. "Good morning," Maya said. "I have an appointment with Richard Tennant at 9 a.m., Maya Richardson from Next Gen Solutions." Patricia Winters barely looked up from her phone. Her eyes flicked over Maya, taking in her natural hair styled in a professional updo, her minimal jewelry, and her designer briefcase, all without a hint of recognition or respect. "Do you have an appointment?" she asked flatly, despite Maya having just stated exactly that. "Yes," Maya replied patiently. "9 a.m. with Mr. Tennant. I'm Maya Richardson, CEO of Next Gen Solutions. We are here to discuss the acquisition proposal." Patricia's eyebrows shot up in obvious disbelief. She looked Maya up and down again, this time with open skepticism. "You're the CEO?" The emphasis she placed on "your" spoke volumes. "Yes, I am," Maya responded firmly, maintaining her composure. "Richard is expecting me. We've been in talks for weeks." Patricia's lips thinned into a tight line. "Mr. Tennant is very busy this morning. He doesn't have time for unexpected visitors. Perhaps you're confused about the date." Her tone was condescending, as if speaking to a child. Maya pulled out her phone and opened her calendar. "The meeting was confirmed yesterday by Mr. Tennant's assistant. I have the email right here." She turned the screen toward Patricia. Patricia barely glanced at it. "That must be a mistake. Mr. Tennant would have told me if he was meeting with someone like you today. I suggest you get lost and reschedule through proper channels." She picked up her phone again, a clear dismissal. The lobby had grown quiet. Several employees had stopped to watch the exchange, some with uncomfortable expressions, others averting their eyes. Maya stood perfectly still, her face betraying nothing of the fury and humiliation burning inside her. Just as Maya was about to respond, the elevator doors opened, and Richard Tennant himself strode out, accompanied by his CFO and 2 board members. Richard, a tall man in his 60s with silver hair, spotted Maya immediately and walked over with an extended hand. "Maya, glad you could make it. We're all set up in the conference room," Richard said warmly. Then, noticing her expression, he frowned. "Is everything all right?" Before Maya could answer, Patricia interjected, her voice suddenly honey-sweet. "Mr. Tennant, I was just explaining to this woman that you're too busy for unscheduled appointments. Today." Richard looked confused. "Unscheduled? This meeting has been on my calendar for weeks. This is Maya Richardson, CEO of Next Gen Solutions, our potential new parent company." He turned to Maya with an apologetic smile. I hope there hasn't been any confusion. Your receptionist just told me to get lost, Maya stated calmly, loud, enough for the now silent lobby to hear. She refused to acknowledge my appointment and suggested someone like me couldn't possibly have business here. Richard's face flushed red. Patricia, is this true? Patricia stammered. I didn't know she was... I thought she was just... she doesn't look like... Like what, Patricia? Richard pressed, his voice hard. Patricia fell silent, her face growing pale. Richard turned to Maya. Ms. Richardson, I can't apologize enough. This is completely unacceptable. Please, let's go upstairs and we can sort this out. Actually, Maya said, her voice level and professional, I think we need to have a different conversation first. The conference room on the top floor offered a panoramic view of the city, but no one was admiring the scenery. Richard Tennant sat with his executive team on one side of the massive table, all looking uncomfortable. Maya sat alone on the other side, her portfolio open, her expression unreadable. Let me be clear about what happened downstairs, Maya began. Your front desk employee took one look at me, a black woman, and decided I couldn't possibly be a CEO coming to discuss acquiring your company. When I provided evidence of my appointment, she told me to get lost. This isn't just about bad customer service. This is about a culture that allows such behavior to exist. Richard nodded solemnly. I understand completely, and I assure you Patricia will be terminated immediately. We have zero tolerance for this kind of behavior. But that's just it, Mr. Tennant, Maya continued. You clearly do have tolerance for it because it happened. And from my research into Vertex systems, this isn't an isolated incident. Your company has had 3 discrimination lawsuits in the past 5 years, all quietly, settled. Your diversity statistics are among the worst in the industry, with less than 5% of your executive positions held by people of color. The executives exchanged nervous glances as Maya pulled out a stack of papers from her portfolio. I came here today prepared to offer $180 million for Vertex Systems to absorb your technology and to retain most of your staff. But now I'm seeing that the problems at Vertex run deeper than financial mismanagement. Richard leaned forward anxiously. Maya, please. What happened was inexcusable, but don't let one employee's actions derail what could be beneficial for both our companies. We can address these diversity issues as part of the transition. Maya smiled, but there was steel behind it. I've revised my offer. I'm still willing to acquire Vertex Systems, but for $120 million, not $180 million. And there will be conditions, the CFO sputtered. That's a 33% reduction. The board will never... Let me finish, Maya said firmly. The conditions are non-negotiable. First, a complete overhaul of your HR policies and practices, overseen by diversity consultants of my choosing. Second, an executive team that reflects the diversity of this country within 18 months. Third, a comprehensive training program for all employees with real consequences for non-compliance. She slid a new document across the table. And finally, Patricia Winters will indeed be terminated, but not before completing a 6-week intensive training program on unconscious bias and workplace discrimination, after which she will be evaluated for potential reinstatement at a different position, because I believe in second chances when there's genuine growth. The room was silent as Richard stared at the document. You have 2 options, Maya continued. Accept these terms, or I walk away. And given your company's financial situation, which I know is much worse than you've publicly admitted, you'll be filing for bankruptcy within 3 months. 6 months later, Maya stood in the same lobby, but it was hardly recognizable. The stark, cold marble had been replaced with warm woods and comfortable seating areas. The reception desk was now staffed by a diverse team of 3 people who greeted visitors with genuine warmth. The elevator opened, and Richard emerged with his new executive team, now comprised of 4 women and 3 men, representing various ethnic backgrounds and age groups. The company logo behind them had been redesigned, incorporating the Next Gen Solutions emblem alongside the Vertex name. "The quarterly numbers are looking excellent," Richard said, handing Maya a report. "Morale is up. Productivity has increased by 22%, and we've actually started attracting talent from our competitors. Your vision is working." Maya nodded appreciatively. "And how is the mentorship program going?" "Surprisingly well," Richard admitted. "When you first suggested pairing senior executives with employees from underrepresented groups, I was skeptical, but it's been eye-opening for everyone involved." As they walked toward the conference room for the quarterly board meeting, Maya spotted a familiar face. Patricia Winters was working in the company's newly established community outreach office. She was deep in conversation with a young black intern, gesturing enthusiastically as she explained something. Catching Maya's eye, Patricia nodded respectfully. It wasn't friendship, but it was acknowledgement, a small but significant sign of growth. The one-year anniversary celebration represents not just a business milestone, but a profound cultural transformation. When Maya stands at the podium addressing the combined Vertex Next-Gen workforce, she's speaking from a position of proven success rather than just hopeful promises. The auditorium itself is symbolically important. It's filled with faces that reflect a much broader spectrum of humanity than was present a year before, visual evidence of the company's evolution. Maya begins her address by directly acknowledging the incident that could have derailed everything, the moment she was judged by her appearance rather than her accomplishments. This transparency is crucial to the company's new culture. By openly discussing the discrimination she faced rather than politely ignoring it, she reinforces that confronting uncomfortable truths is essential to progress. Her statement that she could have walked away acknowledges the common and understandable response to discrimination: disengagement. Many successful people from marginalized groups simply avoid spaces where they're not welcomed, taking their talents elsewhere. However, Maya saw beyond her personal humiliation to recognize a deeper opportunity, what she identified as worth. Saving wasn't just the company's technology or market position, but the potential to create systemic change. This perspective represents exceptional leadership, the ability to transform a personal slight into a vision for broader transformation. By positioning her decision as seeing something worth saving, she frames the company's previous culture problems as salvageable rather than irredeemable, which allows current employees to feel part of the solution rather than part of the problem. When Maya acknowledges that the road hasn't been easy, she's validating the challenges that everyone in the room has experienced during this transitional year. Organizational change is notoriously difficult, often creating resistance, uncertainty, and conflict before improvement becomes evident. By naming this difficulty, she creates space for people to acknowledge their struggles while still celebrating progress. Her comment that change never is easy normalizes the discomfort that accompanies growth, suggesting that the difficulties weren't signs of failure but natural parts of the transformation process. The mention that some employees couldn't adapt to the new culture represents an important truth about organizational change. Not everyone will make the journey. Some people become so entrenched in old ways of thinking and behaving that they cannot or will not adjust when the environment evolves. Rather than viewing these departures as losses, Maya frames them as necessary to make room for people who bring fresh perspectives and innovations. This reinforces that diversity isn't just about appearances or statistics. It's about expanding the range of ideas, approaches, and solutions available to the organization. The financial results displayed on the screen serve multiple purposes in the narrative. First, they provide tangible validation that ethical changes can produce financial benefits, countering the cynical view that diversity initiatives are merely cost centers rather than value creators. The 40% increase in revenue and doubled market valuation represent extraordinary performance by any business standard. Second, These impressive results silence potential critics who might have viewed Maya's focus on culture as secondary to real business concerns. The numbers demonstrate that culture and commerce aren't opposing forces, but complementary ones when managed correctly. However, Maya immediately pivots from these financial metrics to emphasize that these numbers tell only part of the story. This statement challenges the primacy of financial measurements in corporate success, suggesting that equally important achievements may not be as easily quantifiable. When she describes the environment we've created together as the real success, she's elevating workplace culture to the same level of importance as financial outcomes. The phrase, where everyone can bring their full, authentic selves to work without fear, directly contrasts with her own experience a year earlier, when she was rejected specifically for her authentic self. The reference to being told to get lost creates narrative symmetry, bringing the story full circle by directly recalling the inciting incident. But now this phrase is transformed from an active wound into a historical reference point, demonstrating how far the organization has come. This verbal callback helps crystallize the journey for everyone in the room. The standing ovation Maya receives isn't just applause for a good speech. It represents genuine appreciation for leadership that has improved both the company's performance and its people's daily experience. Standing ovations require consensus. They happen when individuals look around, see others standing, and join them. This collective rising symbolizes the unified culture that has developed, where appreciation crosses demographic lines. In her closing thoughts, Maya offers perhaps the most profound insight of her address, framing the incident with the receptionist, not as an ending, but as a catalyst, a chemical term for something that enables transformation without itself being consumed in the process. This reframes the narrative of discrimination from one of victims and perpetrators to one of challenge and response, from passive experience to active choice. The phrase "moments of choice" emphasizes personal agency. Maya is suggesting that when faced with discrimination or other obstacles, individuals have power in how they respond. While acknowledging that walking away is sometimes necessary for self-preservation, she presents an alternative approach: staying and demanding better. This isn't presented as the only right choice, but as a potentially powerful one that considers long-term, collective impact rather than immediate personal relief. The most forward-looking element of Maya's conclusion is her reference to everyone who comes after you. This places individual actions within a historical continuum, suggesting that how we respond to challenges creates precedents and pathways for others. By making choices with future generations in mind, individuals can transform personal incidents into meaningful social change. This perspective elevates everyday workplace interactions from mundane occurrences to potential inflection points in longer arcs of progress. As the applause continues, the narrative shifts to Maya's internal reflection. Her measure of success has evolved beyond conventional business metrics to encompass creating a template for change that would ripple outward. This ripple metaphor suggests that transformation isn't contained within organizational boundaries, but spreads through industries and communities as others observe and adopt successful models. The idea that her actions are challenging other businesses to examine their own cultures and practices positions Maya not just as a CEO, but as a change agent in the broader business ecosystem. The final sentence completes the narrative arc with elegant symmetry. The receptionist's action did indeed shut down something, not the entire company as the title dramatically suggested, but rather the old culture, the previous ways of operating, and the unchallenged biases that had limited the organization's potential. The phoenix-like imagery of something better emerging from its ashes frames the transformation not as mere reform, but as rebirth. A complete reconstruction built on the foundation of what came before, but fundamentally different in character and possibility. This conclusion elevates what might have been simply a satisfying revenge narrative, difficult employee gets comeuppance, into a more nuanced exploration of transformative leadership. Maya's legacy isn't defined by whom she punished, but by what she built. Her response to discrimination wasn't just to eliminate one problematic employee, but to address the conditions that made such behavior possible. This systemic approach demonstrates sophisticated leadership that recognizes how individual actions reflect broader cultural norms. By closing on this note of collective transformation rather than individual triumph, the script suggests that true success isn't measured by personal vindication, but by creating environments where such vindication becomes increasingly unnecessary, where respect and inclusion become the default rather than the exception. This forward-looking perspective shifts focus from past wrongs to future possibilities, inviting readers to consider their own roles in creating workplaces and communities where everyone can truly belong.